Get out of your comfort zone. The fear that you're not confronting cannot take your life away. The game of life out there waiting for you to come out and play. I tell you, get out of your comfort zone. I know it takes plenty courage to start all over again, but patience and real perseverance could bring you positive gain. I tell you, get out of your comfort zone. Ay, 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 get out of your comfort zone. I know that you have greatness in you. So, get out of your comfort zone. Ay, 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 get out of your comfort zone. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Brother John Caliste. I must start off by apologizing to our listeners, our viewers who may have been expecting to be viewing the guests who we advertised would be on, that the conversation would be commencing from 2 p.m. So we apologize for the few minutes delay. However, we are here with you. I'm your regular host, Raphael, Pablo, and it's a pleasure to be back once again and to have such a team of guests with me. As the ending of that clip said, you have greatness in you. A bunch of people who have demonstrated that they all have greatness in them. Coach Naka Joseph.
Good afternoon.
Triston Smith.
Good
Garvin.
Afternoon.
Orson Thomas.
Good afternoon.
And we have a guest with us, Mr. Dennis Charles.
Thank you very much.
Not brother. To leave out the man himself, Mr. John Caliste. So I feel proud to be in the presence of greatness this afternoon. It's a pleasure for me to be hosting such a special team of people. And to begin with, I am going to ask each and everyone to introduce themselves, beginning with the gentleman I know the least, Mr. Orson Thomas. You know, because when I put out the flyer, recently, someone asked me, it was somebody from Guelph. So who's this Thomas guy? So please tell us, who's this Thomas guy?
Oh man, it's interesting. I don't even know where to start.
Who's this Thomas guy?
Yeah, well, interesting enough. So my name is Orson Thomas, originally from Beaton St. David's. Interesting, I always try to kind of talk about the journey a little bit, but through basketball, I was able to meet Coach Naka Joseph, who really, assisted me in getting my skills to be where I think it needed to be to get a basketball scholarship. And for the people in Guelph, they may not realize I actually played with Sparklers for about a year and a half before I actually transitioned over to the US. Came over here on a basketball scholarship in 2005, and been here since. Went to school East Central University, Ada, Oklahoma, and then transitioned from there, went to Tabor College, played basketball, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree in accounting, finance, and business management. And Naka is probably, don't even know if Naka is aware of this, but I actually quit my junior season so that I can pursue an MBA at Emporia State. I graduated from Emporia State in 2009 with an MBA with emphasis in enterprise resource planning and accounting. After Emporia State, I accepted a position with Deloitte & Touche, which was mainly a public accounting firm here in the US. We specialize in in audits, taxes, consulting services. I was mainly in the audit practice for approximately 3.5 years. And then from there, kind of, held different roles within both the public and private sector, mainly in the accounting and finance industry. Currently, I am at Standish Management as a senior manager, mainly in the private equity practice. And we do anything from consulting of private equity funds to advising our clients on tax structures and how to structure funds so that they can pay the least tax and make the most amount of money. So that's kind of in a nutshell, a kind of roundabout story. It's a lot going on, but really owe it to Coach Naka Joseph, which really helped me to get out here and seek those opportunities.
Well, that's a big nutshell, and that's
Yeah.
a lot packed into that nutshell. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr.
Oh, definitely.
It's a pleasure to meet you. And the mention of, well, I'll get to that later on. Mr. Taylor.
Yes, sir.
I remember, I believe the last time we were together, I had invited you, well, it was again through Coach Naka, to go to speak at NULO, because I used to bring people to speak at NULO to share their story and to help to motivate the young trainees there. So tell us, who is Garvin Taylor Jr.? For
First
those
off,
who know you as well as I do.
First off, well, Naka always finds things for me to do because apparently he doesn't think I'm busy enough. Yeah, well, I'm Garvin Taylor Jr. Most people know the senior. Born and raised in Guelph area. Went to St. John's Anglican, Shaper. Then taught at Raphael Secondary for a few years and transitioned to West Virginia Wesleyan College in the US, where I did a bachelor's in sports medicine. Came back to Grenada for a couple of years and then head back to do a master's in exercise science and rehabilitation at City University of New York, Brooklyn College. Then in 2008, returned to Grenada and joined a small existing private practice as well as lectured at TAMCC. So I lectured on TAMCC in the PZ program as well as the pharmacy program for 6 years. And now I'm full-time at physiotherapy practice at the National Stadium.
Okay, and you are here because the entire team, except Mr. Charles, are here because I invited Coach Naka Joseph to be here in the context of he being the coach of the most successful basketball team in the country and having published 2 books. I mean, I feel good to be in the presence of greatness. I mean, but so you're the physio for the team.
Yes.
We have Mr. Thomas who played for the team.
I also played for the team.
And you also played for the team.
Much longer than Mr. Thomas.
Much longer than Mr. Thomas, okay. So, Dr. Triston Smith, it's your time
sir.
now. It's your time now. I mean, it's a pleasure to be seeing you after all of these years. And I mean, what's your claim to be here on this Sparklers platform? Tell the let the audience know what's your claim to be here on this audio on this Sparklers platform.
Yeah.
And I mean, and who is Dr. Triston Smith?
Well, thank you very much, Pablo, and thanks Naka for inviting me. So I'm Triston Smith. I'm from Dunk Street in Guelph. I was born there. Spent the early part of my childhood in Guyana. Then I came back to Grenada when I was about 10 years old. Went to St. John's RC and then went up to St. John's Christian Secondary Shaper School. After that, I actually was following Taylor by about 5 years. I think when he was in Form 5, I was starting in Form 1. Then went to TAMCC. After that, taught at Raphael Secondary School. Taylor and I, we overlapped there while he was teaching. Then I went to Cuba to do medicine. I did medicine in Cuba, then came back to Grenada, did 1 year at the hospital, then about a year and a half at teaching physiology at St. George's University, and then transitioned to the United States. I came here to Pittsburgh, to Allegheny General Hospital, where I did an internal medicine residency. After that, I did a cardiovascular disease fellowship and then was the chief cardiovascular fellow for a year. And then after that, I did interventional cardiology. So now I am working at Wheeling Hospital in West Virginia. It's just outside of Pittsburgh, where I'm the chief of cardiology and the director of the structural heart program. So basically what I do, my big focus is on heart disease and doing complex interventions. So I like replace heart valves without having to open up the chest. So everything I do is without any sort of incisions. I put catheters in, any vessel in the body that's blocked, I'll open it up. Patients who are having heart attacks, I put stents in. So I'm board certified in internal medicine, general cardiology, nuclear cardiology, echocardiography, and interventional cardiology. So my practice is based around doing a lot of complex interventional work on the heart. Now, my claim to being on the Sparklers platform is that I didn't play for Sparklers. I think I played around Sparklers. I didn't have the necessary skills or height when I was growing up at that time. But Naka invited me one day to run the scoreboard. So I started doing that. And then one day he came and said, okay, I want you on the bench. So I was a table official for a while. And then there was one day when I think it was GBC at that time. They were televising a game between Sparklers and I think it was the 76ers or Carnage, was one of them. And then one of the announcers didn't show up. And then Naka came to me and said, well, there's no announcer there. You have to commentate tonight. And I was like, okay, fine. So I got into commentary and started commentating on basketball at that time. And then Naka also pushed me to become a referee. So I was a level 2 FIBA referee before going off to Cuba to do medicine. So I was around the Sparklers organization during my high school and community college years. And Naka really pushed me and allowed me to explore another side of me that I didn't know I had. So I'd have to thank Naka and the Sparklers team for that.
Well, I believe we have a video clip with part of that voice, and we'll be playing that shortly, just after I finish speaking with the big man himself, Coach Naka Joseph.
Afternoon.
Mr. Fitzgerald, Naka, Craig, Joseph. I can't leave out the Craig, you know what I mean? Because this man was a unique kind of individual. And
Who is that, Craig or me?
Well, the fruit don't fall far from the tree.
I think I heard that statement somewhere before.
So, all right. So you heard that statement somewhere before. The fruit don't fall. And I was looking at a program that you did just not so long ago, and that came out a few times. It was mentioned. The host himself, oh, you're a man who's known to be a straight shooter. You're a man who's known to be, I don't know if he was talking about you playing the game or whatever, but I mean, you're a man who, and your dad was known to be that kind of person, a straight shooter who is going to tell it as it is. So, Coach Naka, is yours. Tell it as it is.
Coach Naka Joseph, like born and raised, like all the players, Doc and them that preceded me from Guav, born in Guav, wouldn't leave Guav. I guess I got to be buried in Guav and steal and then try something else and maybe cremate me or something. But, grew up, went to St. John's Anglican, Did martial arts for a large portion of my life after that. Then I transitioned into the basketball, and we started the basketball team around 1978. Uh, I still have my vest just to make sure that the people know that I'm a player. I still have my
Blue face.
see me sparkler vest. You can't, I tried to put it on for the program, but you only going over one shoulder. So I couldn't use that. So I just have it here from 1978. And I went to Trinidad for a bit. I think it was around 5 years, 1982, just before the revolution, the demise of the revolution. And I came back in 87 and started the coaching from there. And I've been coaching ever since. So I've been coaching sparklers after playing uh, 70s, 80s, and left, came back, and then I started coaching. So I've been coaching about 33 years now. Um, and it has been a wonderful journey, a wonderful ride. I mean, except for the little bumps and obstacles like Taylor and Orson and them giving you, a whole set of trouble. But I think I did well. I sort of make it through. Not much gray hairs to show for it. But I'm there hanging in still. I'm hoping to hang up the gloves in a while, but Taylor is still telling me no, I have some years to go still. I don't know how long I'll go for, but I'll keep doing what I'm doing in this circumstance until such time. If you would permit me to say that all the Dr. Smith, Orson, Taylor, they all not only played for the team and like Doc said has been a wrong, but the contributions that they are able to make, continue to make over the years, I mean, it assisted the team greatly because a lot of times people think that the team only played locally, but we are one of the most traveled team in the country. I don't think any team has traveled more than us to play in the region. And I don't think any team has hosted more teams from abroad than us in the region. I don't know if any team has brought in maybe more coaches to get players on scholarship in the country. I'm not sure about that either. So with their help, I mean, it really has been a blessing for the team to be continuing. We 42 years this year and still continue to move along. So
Well,
in a
thank you,
nutshell, that's me.
thank you, Coach. We'll be getting more deep into all of this conversation but before we take a short break, let me just bring in Mr. Charles. Mr. Charles, you're here with us. You need to say a few words to the audience.
Yes, well, once again, thank you, my friend Pablo, and the wonderful panel, especially the young kids who from basketball learn to resolve, build character, discipline, and focus, because you cannot win any game or tournament. I guess as much you guys might have been very successful in golf and maybe played on a national level or internationally.
The most successful basketball team in the country.
The most very certain. So you cannot get from point A to point B without focus, tunnel vision, discipline. And I guess as much you had a very good coach who was also a role model and somebody who motivated. I did some cricket in my time at McDonald College. I was being trained at one time by Wes Hall, one of the greatest fast bowlers during the time of Sir Garfield Sobers and all of that in West Indies cricket, and others at McDonald College. I was pretty good. I was a fast bowler too. But the problem was living Sotters when there is no bus running after 4 or 5 o'clock and you had to walk all the way down to Tivoli. And then with all that homework and so forth, you got to study and all of that. Sometimes we played in Guava, Chantimel, other places. And there is no ride to go home, living that far. So I had to make a choice. And although I had a passion and I had a knack for it, the principal of McDonald College, Mr. Buldo, he once played for Grenada, as well as my physics teacher, Dr. Cecil Joseph. He played cricket for Grenada too. And I was pretty good. Hence the reason they got, folks from Barbados. But anyhow, in the end, I couldn't do two of them living that far. So I had to give up on the cricket, which I regret, but I did it. So that is all I'll say for now. I am glad to be part of this panel. And when we come back, then we will continue.
All right. So at this point in time, we take a short break. I'm going to forego that video clip and I'll take a break with a song that's called Strive by Shinehead. I think it's very suitable for the occasion.
How you mean? Brothers and sisters, good day there. How you doing? Hope you're doing fine. Brand new music, this mix up and play for the man like that and shine as I would say. Yeah. Real keen for my record machine to the sound when all I see nigga rock and come in as I will tell you. Brand new music, this make it jump on twist, speaking of this. Tell you about it.
It's not coming through the platform.
Sometimes it's hard, but try and you make it. Believe you me. In order to achieve, go forth and take it. Set yourself free. With obstacles in your way, you may fall before you rise. But if you really want good, your nose off a run. So get up and keep your eyes on the prize. So as part of your plan, you feel your ambition, and the Almighty One as your foundation. Hey, nobody get rich and switch because that's definitely wrong. Me beg you, no, don't forget your friends and where you come from. If you are thief, remember God now sleep. And although you're robber man and you get well last week, you fall off out the street, but you're beaten going steep because God is a silent river and you know him run deep. Throughout history, lots of great men and women went about things the old-fashioned way. They just kept on winning and winning. So strive, step up in life and go for what you know. You've got to strive, remove the doubt from out your mind and let good flow. Be not moved by smart remarks from people who think they're winning. Keep moving on, mind gotta be strong and don't indulge in self-pity. But strive, step up in life and go for what you know. You got to strive, remove the doubt from out
Yes,
your
you have
mind
got
and
to
let good
strive.
flow. With obstacles in your way, you may fall before you rise. But if you really want good, your nose off the run. So get up and keep your eyes on the prize and strive. Step up in life and go for what you know. You got to strive, remove the doubt from out your mind and let good flow. Throughout history, lots of great men and women went about things the old-fashioned way. They just kept on winning and winning. So strive, step up in life.
Yes, you have got to strive, step up in life and go for what you know. Throughout history, lots of great men and women went about things the old-fashioned way and they just keep on winning and winning. And the man of the moment this evening, this afternoon, Coach Naka Joseph, he is evidence of one who just went about things the old-fashioned way, and he just kept on winning and winning. Because there's many people who would have had greater opportunities than he did. And he is reflective of the song that introduced this program. Get out of your comfort zone, because there's so many people in their little comfort zones that are afraid to step out of it. And as a consequence, they do not accomplish the things that are in them for them to accomplish. And so we have with us Coach Naka Joseph, a man who has written 2 books. One, The History of Basketball, and the other, which speaks about the energy of Guelph. Coach, tell your audience about that transition. I'll be getting back to you a little later on some other things relating to general issues of sports in the country. But just tell your audience a little bit about those 2 books that you've published and what's behind it, what's the message, what's the story. Because I take this thing very deep and very seriously, because many of the people in academia and many of the people in administrative positions, when they have a microphone in front of them, they're on a podium, you hear them speak about the need for archiving, the fact that we as a country, we do not document stuff. And then they go back into their little offices and none of these things do get done. But we see someone who has not come through the regular channels of academia has been able to give such unique offerings to the community of Guelph, St. John's, and to the country as a whole. Speak to that for us, Coach.
You know, we're in the era of 2020 cricket, so normally we call that kind of cricket whooping. So maybe you could consider what I did as a whoop, or maybe you could add a little more credence to it. But
Coach, let me just come in here. I wouldn't consider process that you, when there is a process involved in something, it could never be considered a whoop.
Okay. Well, let me go.
And having been there, having had the opportunity to observe the process, I would never ever qualify it as a VOOP, and I would not allow you to get away with that. So go ahead.
Okay, all right. But maybe I should have come out a good math student, but maybe you as the maths teacher didn't do a good job with me. You spent a lot of time working on me, but I didn't come out a good math student. So I don't know if it's you that didn't do a good job, or maybe I just, you know, wasn't ready to take that stuff in. But the basketball book came about because of the tremendous pressure that basketball was going through at the period at that time. We didn't have the kind of support necessary because I was really, at the time, technical director, national basketball.
How you feel? Brothers and sisters, good lady. How you doing? Hope you're doing fine. Riding with this mix up and play for the man like that and Johnny the Down say, yeah. Real kid from a record machine to the spot when I see nigga rapping, come in as I will tell you. Riding with this nigga jump on twist, speaking of this. Tell him about it. Sometimes it's hard, but try and you'll make it. Believe you me. In order to achieve, go forth and take it. Set yourself free. really want good, you know how to run. So get up and keep your eyes on the prize. So as part of your plan, you feel have ambition, and the Almighty One as your foundation. Hey, nobody get rich and switch because that's definitely wrong. Me begging you, don't forget your friends and where you come from. If you are thief, remember God nasty. And although you're a robber man and you get well last week, you fall about the street, but you're beaten going steep because God is a silent river and you know it run deep. Throughout history, lots of great men and women went about things the old-fashioned way. They just kept on winning and winning. So strive, step up in life and go for what you know. You got to strive, remove the doubt from out your mind and let good flow. Be not moved by smart remarks from people who think they're witty. Keep moving on, mind gotta be strong and don't indulge in self-pity. But strive, step up in life and go for what you know. You got to strive, remove the doubt from out your mind and let good flow. With obstacles in your way, you may fall before you rise. But if you really want good, you know how to run. So get up and keep your eyes on the prize and strive. Step up in life and go for what you know. You got to strive.
Of skill this man had. I mean, I saw him once or twice do a couple things, but I mean, he never sort of thinking that he was at this level of play. But through my interviews with over 100 and something persons, I was able to sort of come to that conclusion that, you know, even for the last, 50, 60 years, we have not seen a player come through with that level. And this man was a fisherman and a baker. So he didn't really come through like academia, like you said a while ago, but he was able to exhibit that level of intelligence that a lot of people take for granted and say he just natural. Sometimes I try to work that one out and I say he's just natural because not only could he, do the skill, but he could also show you how to do the skill. And like he could talk to you about football and people used to wonder, well, who is it? Is it he talking or is it somebody in him talking? Because you always had to balance it up and say, well, this man doesn't have any academic. I mean, he didn't go secondary school and thing, just like I did. University, no. So where does he get his knowledge from? Where does his knowledge come from? You know? So that's what drove me to, you know, to investigate not only him, but then we had, of course, Kirani James winning the Olympic championships and world championships, and then you had Donald Pay who did. So, you know, I started wondering, well, no, something have to be happening in this Lands Guayave, as the French would call it, which is the whole of St. John's, that I need to pay some attention to. Something have to be going on here. And then you had sculptures, and then you have Uriah Butler, and then you have Mighty Sparrow, and then you have Davidson Boot. So I said, nah, something wrong somewhere. I couldn't put a handle on it. I still can't put a handle on it. But I said, just let me focus on the sporting aspect of it. And that is how I end up starting to do the book. And it's a community book, community project, because the information was really outpouring from me. People were just coming and, like, somebody said to somebody, Naka writing a book on Garvin. And somebody go say, yeah, well, I have some old pictures here from 1948. Let me dig it up and bring it. So I had pictures, people just dropping in stuff, giving me information, verifying information. And that was the genesis of the whole energy of Gov. I mean, I still can't say where the energy come from. I guess if I was able to do that, maybe I might be able to sell more copies, because people like to ask, you know, how you come, but someone not able to rest me my finger on that. I don't know if Taylor, Dr. Smith might be able to tell you. I think there may be manifestations of the energy. I don't know if they could tell you, but somehow are still not able to come up with it.
You know, Coach,
Yeah.
that point you made there in describing Mr. Peter Ponga and the kind of influence that he had, the way he impacted on others, the way that he was able to demonstrate in a practical way how you do certain things. I want to ask those accompanying you here, how would Coach Naka Joseph's way of doing things, the kind of discipline that he brought to the team and to the entire process, how would it have impacted on you, and what credence would you give to it in terms of your professional accomplishments? And I'm going to start with Mr. Thomas once again.
Awesome. Well, I'll start by giving you a story, right? So originally when I started basketball in Grenada, I played for a team called Beaton Pacers. I came from St. David's, technically, played for Beaton Pacers under Coach Brian James. We would always go play against Sparklers just, as warm-up and exhibition games. And I recall one day after the game, Coach Naka actually came up to me, and the first thing he said, he was like, "Hey, I have this basketball school. Um, if you're interested, then you can come work out every Saturday." So I said, "Sure, I'm gonna do it." Well, I think in the training would be pretty easy. You just get on there, you shoot some hoops, and then you go back home. Well, I didn't know it was 2 hours in the blazing hot sun in Guave, running up and down, right? So one day I went to, I had this party in Grandlands, and I had training 7 o'clock in the morning, and woke up late. And the moral of the story, right? I get You had to get a certain bus at a certain time as you were going to be late for practice. I missed that bus, got there at 7:15. And the first thing coach said to me, "You're not practicing today. You need to get on the side and start running." While everybody is running, I run for about 30 minutes. And I'm like, man, why am I running for? It's only 15 minutes. But that kind of translates to a professional setting. You're 15 minutes late for a job interview, you're not getting the job. So I say that to say, he really instilled that kind of, discipline on you that could really translate in a professional setting. His training was some of the hardest training I've ever been through, but I've always decided, you can't quit, you can't give up, you got to fight through it. Another quick story I'm going to give. One time we were shooting and he told me I had to make 10 jump shots. I made 10 and he just had me keep going. At the end of it, I think I was like 50 jump shot in, but I almost died, you know, but it kind of instilled that whole confidence, stuff. You may think that you're there and everything is fine, but you need to push harder. And I think that always translates. Even when at college I was sick at a certain point in time, I would still get up and go push through training. I would push because Naka was always pushing me to be the best that I can. And, I really thank him for doing that and investing in me because I'm originally not from Guav. And he could have literally just have me like, hey, I don't care about you. I don't care about your career. I don't care about whatever. But he really took that time to really help me develop to get where I need to be. And I owe a lot to him. And I had a family support that really would always ask me, hey, have you talked to Naka? Because they know the help that he gave me. And I'm really thankful for that up to today.
What a story. Mr. Taylor,
Yes,
same
sir.
question to you. How much do you think, having that kind of association with Coach Naka Joseph would have contributed to, you becoming the kind of professional that you are?
I think it has everything to do with that. I always say I was lucky in that I had two great men in my life in my dad and Coach Naka. Playing, we all know what it's like growing up in Guelph. It's easy to go either way, can always fall by the wayside. Um, and being in that disciplined environment with Sparklers really kind of helped propel me and kept me on the straight and narrow pretty much. After Sparklers practice, even if you wanted to get in trouble, you couldn't. You were so exhausted. So so it really kept me on the straight and narrow. And also, you know, being in a Sparklers environment, we work so hard that literally nothing I've ever done in life since has been harder than I remember, us doing hill sprints on Mount Nesbitt Hill, running up to Mount Granby, doing hill sprints on Amabia. So, everything else in life seems to be a little bit easier than Sparklers practice was. So, my life is basically is where it is because of my association with Sparklers and obviously been under the guidance and the mentorship of Coach Naka.
Dr. Smith, you were not part of the team, as you said. How did you fit into that mix, and how would all of what transpired there would have, what role did it play in you becoming that kind of professional today?
Well, I learn a lot by observation, and I was able to observe Sparkler's team and Coach Naka, the way he went about doing things. And there are two things that stand out to me, and I think both of our previous guests mentioned it. Discipline. Now, before even touching a ball to start shooting, Sparklers had their conditioning, and it was like a month and a half that these guys would just run and run and run. And there were a lot of talented basketball players in Guave who never embraced the Sparklers concept because they saw that as too much of a challenge. Everyone wants to have the ball in their hands, but no one was willing to undergo that 4 to 6 weeks that Naka had them just running without a ball. But then when I was on the bench on the table doing scoring, or when I was commentating, you would see the close games, and in every close game, Sparklers was always able to pull through and win at the end. You would have 5 minutes to go, and the Sparklers is behind, or the game is tied, and in just that, there's somehow they were able to get that grit. Someone was able to make that play because they were just physically stronger and more mentally prepared coming down to the end of the game. And I think it was because of the rigor of the training that they went through. So I saw that and applied that to my life and to my professional career. So during high school, etc., I was always at the top of the class. It was easy for me. But when I transitioned into university, when I went to Cuba, had to learn Spanish up to the level of a Cuban who speaks Spanish, because everything is done in Spanish at med school. I thought back to what Sparklers and Coach Naka did, and I said, I have to become disciplined. I have to learn how to sit for hours and assimilate information. So I became a very hard worker. Yes, there's intelligence that goes along with it, but intelligence can only take you so far. You also need discipline and preparation. And that discipline and preparation, I gleaned that just from what Sparklers did and what Naka as a person or as a coach instilled in that team. And Naka pushing me to do more than I thought I could do. I mean, when Naka came and said, "Hey, we need you to commentate tonight," I couldn't say no, right? I couldn't say no, but I just did it. And I've come to realize that when you're faced with challenges, no is never the right answer. It's just yes and figure it out. So having been thrust into those positions by Naka and Sparklers in my teenage years instilled that confidence in me that I can do anything that I want to do. So that's how Naka and Sparkler's team has really impacted my life over the years.
Wonderful. You know, it's listening to you guys. I am seeing myself at that stage in my development and the potential that I had back then that was not realized because I did not have that kind of discipline and because I did not have that kind of mentorship. So I missed a lot as a consequence of that because I could have become, when I look at the people that I sat with on school bench and what they accomplished, I am conscious of what I could have accomplished. I do not lose any sleep over it. I have not lost my intellectual capabilities. That has remained with me. And that's the reason why I could be here now doing what I'm doing. That's the reason why after being a guest on John Kelly's show, after being referred to him by a friend, that he would have offered me my own show to do. That's the reason why after sitting at a NEC meeting of the National Democratic Congress, that the then leader of the political party could have pointed to me and say, when they needed someone to do the show, Pablo can do it. And I did it from June of 2018 up until January of this year. So it is, I'm listening to you guys, and it is bringing home to me the need to have people like Coach Naka Joseph and people like Garvin Taylor within the community to be able to nurture people, to be able to tell their stories, to have you, Dr. Smith, and you, Mr. Orson Thomas, on this platform, sharing your stories and getting younger people out there who are hearing this, these stories, to appreciate the fact that mentorship is important, that discipline is critical if you are going to accomplish anything, and because there is, as Garvin Taylor said, there were others, and you rightly said, there were others who had the talent, but talent alone is not enough to take you to where you need to go. Yeah. Coach, you spoke earlier on about basketball not getting the kind of support and so. There's two clips that I want to play here. One that I call Fair Share, and the other one that I call Funding the Problem. So if my technical operator can bring these two clips to the fore for us, we'll take the conversation there on afterwards.
Do you think that basketball has received its fair share in the development of sports in Grenada?
I guess I could put that question to you.
Well, I'm asking you.
But yeah, no, I say, but maybe you could answer some of it. When you say fair share, this year, for instance, it's 22 years since we have not had primary school basketball. We tried to revive that in 1997, 98, and then after that we went on a lull. We didn't get the necessary assistance to go forward. Also in 2018, it was 28 years since basketball returned to the Caribbean Basketball Championship. So when you say getting fair share, I mean, we have went through some really tough times, seeing that our association is not blessed by the parent company, like how FIFA would pump millions of dollars into football, or West Indies cricket would assist with national cricket development, and the NOC for most of the funds that they receive would pump it into track and field, and some of the other associations would get a little bit here and there. But our association is not blessed with that, so most of the time we're struggling. We didn't have an indoor facility. We try on numerous occasions to get my indoor facility whereby we could have ongoing competitions to try and raise funds for ourselves. But after 42 years, like I tell you, we still outdoor on the concrete.
Still outdoor on the concrete. You were not able to raise the necessary fund. Can you play the other clip for me one time? Mr. Kelly's funding the problem.
Administrative side of the basketball, Kester Cyrus as well, was not the problem. The problem was that we just wasn't getting any funding to do the necessary competitions and so forth, and we were just, in most cases, and we were struggling. For instance, all the secondary school sports was run by the Ministry of Sports during that period of time, 1991, 92. But basketball, I had to run basketball out of the office, because the ministry said that they did not have a coach in the ministry. Fitzgerald was a ex-national player, and he was in a position to do the work, and they said they doesn't have a coach to handle that area, so they choose not to run basketball. So basketball was run out of the office for years. Myself and Winston Garvin, we doing all this stuff there until a coach was placed in the ministry in 2004, that Anthony Benjamin, and then the ministry started running competitions again for basketball in secondary school.
So, Coach, that was you on another show. Could you elaborate on that a little bit for us? About these challenges that you say that basketball faced, and what kind of disadvantage do you think that basketball was put at as a consequence of that, as against the other sports which you say had those parent bodies that contributed so significantly?
Well, funding is always critical going forward. In the case of basketball, our sport, originally, the way it was set up, it was meant to be played indoor. But in the Caribbean, or not in the Caribbean, especially the smaller countries in the Caribbean, because they started outdoor in some of the bigger countries as well. But now a lot of the countries have moved on, and Trinidad, for instance, would have maybe close to 10, 12 indoor facilities. Barbados have a couple, Guyana has, Jamaica. I think St. Lucia have one covered facility, and Antigua has one as well. So Grenada still, even though we did maybe well at the Windward Islands level as seniors, we most dominant in Windward Islands secondary school basketball, both boys and girls, we still do not have an indoor facility. And like I said, once you have that facility, that your training would be ongoing. Also, preparation for your senior team, because playing outdoor is totally different when you're playing indoor. Orson could verify that for you. So sometimes we have to create situations and make it. That is why sometimes the training was tougher than it should, because I have to try and eliminate all these other factors that they would face, as they go out there to play on international circuit. So I have no other way of doing it but to put them through this sort of physical rigors without telling them exactly what they're doing. So when they get out there, for instance, the ball that you play with is different. It's a pure leather ball for the indoor surface, and it touches, almost like it's slippery like. So it took you a while before you could handle the ball and stuff like that. I could remember one instance where when we played in Trinidad, a national team, you played on this glass backboard, and one of the players was at the free throw line, and you have a number of seconds, and he lifted the ball up to shoot, and he saw somebody walking behind the backboard, so he looked around to the referee, because he thought maybe the person was sort of interfering with his vision, not knowing that the person is outside of the game, and when you see them, it's truly glass backboard, because we are accustomed with solid backboard. You are accustomed with glass backboard, so people could stay behind and wave their hands and distract you and do all kind of stuff. We're not used to that stuff. So through preparation physically, because that's the only way you could enter mentally, you can ask the player to write down, I must be disciplined 100 times on a piece of paper, and hope that by the end of doing that he become more disciplined. It just doesn't happen that way. So we face, like I said, a number of challenges, and the thing is that basketball was moving like I tell you, at a serious pace, because I was pushing, and I'm not sure whether the administrators in the other sports would have liked that or not, because sometimes people see things as if you're showing them up for a better use of the word. And if I feel like you're showing me up and people start questioning how come, that sport is doing better than you and they don't have whatever, then they feel maybe one of the best ways to do is to suppress it if they could. And we face those challenges, but somehow I'm not bothered by that. The way, I grew up, and, like I tell you, I'm a martial artist first and foremost. So fighting was really part of my thing. A lot of people doesn't know that. So the discipline I get from martial arts, I'm able to translate that into what I do. So, I try to keep the players and them as far from all these administrative battles, as possible. Maybe if you ask Taylor during the time when he was playing, I don't know if he was aware. I never brought them into that at all. Their focus had to be on playing, and I tried to take up, all the slack wherever I could. Whether it is to get uniforms, if we do have sponsor, we play with the same uniform maybe 4 or 5 years. They're not bothered with that. They just focus on what they're doing, and we just keep going, and the discipline, like you said, has worked in a number of ways, if I were to digress a bit, because I've tested what we do on the international circuit, all in London. I coach in Trinidad and Tobago. I tested with the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, which is one of the best club teams that you had in the region for a number of years. I've coached coaches in St. Vincent, prepared Latisha Kato to play professionally netball out in Wales, and she was able to move Wales team from the bottom of the table in the Super League to the finals of the Super League in 3 years' time. So we sort of, at Sparkler, sort of stumble into something where we know that preparation phase, and sometimes people just think that all we do, like Dr. Smith said, they think all we do is run, but running can get you to score the basketball. You have other skills that have to come into play, and they never talk sometimes because, maybe the shooting was so rigorous, because like Orson would tell you, they had to shoot a couple hundreds, 3, 4, 500. I remember Latisha Kato had to make 500 shots a day. Besides that, she had to do a whole set of shuttle sprints and stuff. If she missed, she had to work, but she had to make 500. And when she get out there in the Super League, she was shooting 90-something% every game. You see? So, yes, the physical, like I say, you have to prepare the engine. The engine and the tires and all that stuff have to be good. Otherwise, Lewis Hamilton can't function. The car must be good. So people tend to leave that aspect out. They think that, the thing is that if you practice the skill long enough, that you're going to be good enough. No, it doesn't work that way. Well, as far as we have tested at other sparklers, over the years, we realize that, it just doesn't work. But people don't really, bother. Maybe try that. I talked to a lot of coaches overseas as it relates to the whole training and how we stumble into what we do. And when it's put to the test, wherever you go, whether it's at the college level in the States or wherever, the players could tell you that what we do, it could stand up to the test. Okay. But as far as, like you say, the administration, I never kept the players I try to keep the players as far off these administrative problems as I can. So they were just focused on playing. So they was never affected much by it. I used to take that load and let it just continue to play.
So that being said, Mr. Thomas, what was it like for you now, getting out there and having to make that kind of adjustment from this outdoor facility to indoor facility, using the different ball and so on? How did the kind of training that you got from coach, really factor into you being able to make that adjustment?
Yeah, well, at first, I'll be quite frank, right? coach always used to tell me like my hands is really bad. And I always would tell him, well, that's because I play with rubber balls for a big portion of my life because, you can't really put leather ball out on concrete, right? And especially when it's wet because it's going to be like 5 pounds, right? So a lot of it was the transition was a little bit difficult. But one of the things coach said that was really interesting is the running never changed. So when I got to East Central back in 2005, for about the first 2 weeks of training, all we did was run. They would put us not even in the gym; they would put us out on the tracks. One time I even told like my buddy Ian, I feel like I'm on a track and field scholarship because that's what we did. We just run because it was like, if you can't run a mile in 6.5 minutes as a guard, you're not going to play. So a lot of the stuff really translates. I remember even when he put Victoria, we were practicing in Victoria, and I don't remember what the hill called, and coach would have us run before practice. I used to work at Grenada Cooperative Bank, and from there go to practice, change my clothes, and have to run. um, and all of that kind of gets you in the mindset that you need in order to succeed because you already been through it, you already done it. So it kind of really prepare you for the speed of the game, the physicality, the conditioning. So apart from trying to adjust to the ball and the floor, and I think all the fundamentals we pretty much had it. It's just kind of the difficult part of it, and which is why I enjoy playing with sparklers, is that when you practice, you practicing with 10 guys that's of a similar skill level, right? And in Grenada, if I didn't make the transition from where I were and go to Coach Naka, I think I would have been less prepared because in practice, no, I'm going up against 4 to 5, well, 4 to 5, maybe even 7, 8 guys that had the similar skills. So practice was like a war. You had to go against people that would make you better every single day. And that's how it is out here. You're playing against guys at the same skill level, so they push you to be the best you can. So, moving from that setting from Coach Naka Joseph's school to Sparklers to here, the transition was a little bit easier. It's just to figure out, okay, well, the different ball, the flowing is a little bit different. But training on the concrete, I was able to jump a little bit higher playing on the hardwood, because it's a lot easier on the knees. But, at the end of the day, I want to say something here because I feel the concrete really is hard on your body because sometimes my knee had pretty bad tendonitis. So I would have to get treatment after every single practice. So, if we can get that facility where we can have that hardwood or something softer, I think, it would really help a lot of the athletes and basketball. But like Naka said, basketball been one at the back of the line for quite some time. So I think we need to start the cycle of changing that.
So, Mr. Taylor, what kinds of transitions, did you yourself have to go through, if not as a basketballer per se, but in your professional life? How did the training from coach, enable you to make whatever transitions that you needed to make as you pursued your professional career?
Well, I played. My basketball career was prematurely ended by a knee injury. To my ACL, probably like 4 years into my basketball career. So that kind of put a damper on things there. But when I went to school in the US, I still played occasionally. Went to scrimmage with them one day, and everybody started looking at each other like, who's this guy? Where is he from? So they invited me to come back a few times, come play with us. We really like playing with you. You can actually play the game. So like, where are you from? Where did you learn the game? So I told him where I was from. Well, obviously nobody knew where Grenada was, so you had to kind of explain. And the next time I went to play with them, there's this, older guy sitting in the stands. And after I finished playing, he called me over and he said, "Do you know who I am?" I said, "No, I don't know who you are." And he said, "I'm the basketball coach for the school." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, that's nice." He's like, "Would you like to play for the school?" I mean, just straight out like that. "Would you like to play for the school?" So I said, "Well, I can't answer you right now. I'll get back to you on that." And when I got back to my room, I called my dad and I told my dad, "Look, they're offering me the opportunity to play for the school. He said, are they offering you a scholarship? He said, not. I said, not initially, but the idea is if I make the team, that I will get some funding and so on. So he said, you decide what you want to do. Do you think your knee can take the rigors of the game? So I went and I spoke to the coach. I said, listen, I have a knee injury. You saw I was playing with a brace, and I'm not sure that, my knee can take the rigors of 5 days of practice and so on. And he said, if you can practice 3 days a week, you can play. So, it was a hard decision for me. I had to make a decision, call my dad again, and he said, well, you know what you went for, and, how will that affect you? But the program I was in, the sports med program, needed 1,500 hours of clinical hours to graduate. So I had to make a decision as to, do I want to play basketball and jeopardize not getting all my clinical hours? And possibly, if I do re-injure my knee, then I may be, out of class for an extended period. And I just remember the struggles with the knee back and forth, and, so decided, I will just not accept the offer and so on. But he did, it did make a significant offer. And that's after stopping, have not been playing for Sparklers for years. But just the way we learned the game and the way we prepared, any coach seeing us play can tell that, these guys know the game. They know how to play basketball. So that's just my story in terms of, my transition where that is concerned.
So, Dr. Smith, you've already spoken as to how, being associated with Coach Naka and that whole Sparklers environment impacted on you when you went to Cuba. When you went further into your cardiovascular, training and so on, did that experience have any bearing on you being able to make those transitions?
Well, of course. The field of cardiology itself, in the US, there are very few Black cardiologists. The field of interventional cardiology is even less. You have even less Black interventional cardiologists. And the field of structural heart disease is a very select group. And every step of the way, I did my medical school in Cuba. Then when I was going to medical school, let me start there. When I was about to go to medical school, everyone was saying, hey, you're going to go be a doctor. And I always said, no, I'm going to be a cardiologist, because I had a focus. I had a goal in mind as to what I wanted to achieve. So it wasn't just about becoming a doctor. It was about becoming a cardiologist. Just as Sparkler's goal is always to win that championship every single year. They set that goal and they work towards that goal. So my aim wasn't to become a doctor. It was to become a cardiologist. So I went to Cuba with that mindset. I knew I had to be top of the line. When I was in Cuba, I graduated top of my class. And in Cuba, when you graduate top of your class, you're able to choose whatever specialty you wanted to do. So I chose cardiology, and but I wanted a 1-year break. So I came to Grenada, and then I met my now wife in Grenada, and she was coming to the US. And so I had to make a decision as to what to do, because now I had to think about giving up an automatic scholarship to go back to Cuba to do cardiology versus having to do a series of exams to get into the US system that few people who train in Cuba actually pass. Not because the Cuban training is inferior, but just because it's different. The focus is different. So having that mindset and that discipline, again, I got down to the task. Make sure I studied harder than everyone else to be able to pass those exams, and not just pass those exams, but pass in the 95th, 99th percentile, because that's what you need to get into cardiology in the US. So that drive of always being your best and pushing yourself to be the best has always been there. There's one other thing I want to mention about sparklers and coach that also rubbed off on me. You would never see around competition time, you would never see the sparklers guys just playing basketball on the court. We call it sweat, like 5 guys, 6 guys just go and they pick up a ball and start to play. When it was time for competition, there was no sweating involved. These guys, they were disciplined, they were purposed, and there were no distractions. So Naka and Sparklers had this no sweating policy. I'm not sure if it was a spoken policy or an unspoken policy, but what I do know is that I never saw them just being in any regular old scrimmage because they were singularly focused on getting the task accomplished. And I think that has rubbed off on me as well, in that a lot of the esoteric things that happen, when you go to medical school or when you're in residency and fellowship, I can push that aside in my mind and focus on the task at hand, because I learned that again from the sparklers way of doing things.
The sparklers culture.
The sparklers culture.
That's sparklers culture. How much would you say that I see that you have been instrumental, you have done certain papers, one of which has to do with, let's see, it says obstructive sleep apnea syndrome, which is well known to be highly prevalent sleep disorder. Can you just tell us what that means in real terms?
Well, obstructive sleep apnea is a condition where when you sleep at night, you would stop breathing. And you would stop breathing because sometimes the tongue falls back to the back of the throat, or some people have very large adenoids or very large tonsils, so they snore a lot. And we say, oh, that this person snores a lot, and that person snores a lot. But in that snoring, what happens, sometimes you can stop breathing. And when you stop breathing, of course, the brain and all the other organs in the body, they're deprived of oxygen. So you would wake up in the morning and you'd be like, oh my gosh, if I only had an extra hour to sleep, I'd feel great. Now, what happens with obstructive sleep apnea is during the time when you're sleeping or you're supposed to be sleeping, your eyes are closed, but your body is under stress. So that puts stress on your heart, cause your heart to become enlarged. The top chambers of the heart becomes enlarged, put you at risk for a condition called atrial fibrillation, where the top chambers of the heart don't squeeze well and puts you at risk for developing blood clots that can form strokes, etc. But it also causes the blood to clot faster. So you're prone to having blood clots in your legs, in your lungs, and it also predisposes you to having heart attacks, etc. So obstructive sleep apnea is one of the risk factors for coronary artery disease that is not spoken about generally, as the diet in the Caribbean become more westernized. Everyone is getting fatter, more obese. So the more obese you are, the more likelihood you have to having this obstructive syndrome. And it is something that we need to pay attention to, because it affects our quality of life and it affects our longevity, because you're prone to having cardiovascular events and strokes.
Oh, I'm listening to you speak about that there. And Coach, you remember sometime when we come from movie? From the time you come out the cinema, there was a gentleman who lived in the vicinity. You could hear him snoring from the time you come out the cinema.
I can't remember. Who is that? I can't remember. You're jogging my memory now. Come on. That's who?
Mr. Gibson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, from the time you come out
yeah.
And he was a big body person,
Correct.
So probably he was experiencing that, and if my technical operator can play two clips for me here now, player support and sports tourism, because coach has already spoken about the whole issue of basketball not getting its fair share. We heard talk about, you know, other athletes going away and getting certain level of support and stuff like that. So if we can, my technical operator can play these two clips for me, player support and sports tourism.
You don't treat, you know, your people, Grenadian people, right, in that kind of manner, because we have a number of players who gone out there right now. When I check the remittances, I think last year, personal remittances from Grenadians coming from the US, I think in 2018 it was about 4.1 million US, and I think 2019 was 3.9 or something like that. So you have a situation where we have unemployment situation here, and we had to get players out. If some of the players come back, fine. But if we could get players out there and get them employed, and they could contribute to family and friends, because some of the players got some of the other players to get up there. I mean, we're doing a wonderful job, because it's anything to help out, you know, the Grenadian children. You know, so when you're in a position to help and you marginalize one set over the other, then you find you have problems sooner or later. Because, I mean, I surprised to hear Joel was talking about he didn't get any assistance when he was out there in college. You had, if you look at the PKF accounting statement from the NOC, you could see 2013, 2014, you had $247,000 and $205,000 going out there for athlete assistance. So I thought he was in a privileged few. So I was surprised to hear that he didn't get anything. That was kind of, you know, really, really strange to hear him saying that he didn't get, and he was in track and field. So just imagine basketball players. I mean, we had nothing to get with all those guys and them going over the years. And we had more than 20 players, I mean, both boys and girls, out there struggling and make it. Eventually, most of them make it, which was really good. But we really need to turn the thing around and help you people out, because nobody ain't gonna do it for us, you know? Yeah, I have stuff here that I could talk to you about, even 99, where I wrote to Michael Olivier, because
sports coordinator at the time.
yes, because he took over from Reds.
Right.
And I went to the US, I think it was to Arizona University, and while there, I think Lou Olson and them had this team from Russia, Moscow Dynamos. They were playing a series of matches with some of the Division I schools. And they beat the team from Moscow really bad. And he asked me if we don't have any teams in the Caribbean that could play much better than that. I tell him, yeah, we could put teams together to come up here. He said, well, you need to do that, because we pay a fee of $10,000 per game for visiting teams. And if you could get a team to come up, he gave me some of the contacts, which is Basketball Traveler, Tour and Competitive Sports Inc., that I call and talk to those people and them. And when we work on the logistics, it was going to cost Grenada about $80,000 to put a Windwards or OECS team together. We were going to train in Trinidad for 6 weeks. And we are going to play at least 7 games up in the US, right? And that was going to bring in revenue of 70,000 US, 10,000 per game. And it was costing us about 80,000 EC, right? To do such. And I did a proposal, if you could see that here, to Michael Oliver, right? If you could see that there. And also to Dwight Venner and the General Secretary of the NOC. And the bank refused. They tell me that they was putting money into under 23 netball.
And when you say the bank, you're referring to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank.
Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, yeah. I wrote to Dwight Venner, because okay, I spoke to a guy who was an advisor to him, who is something Sydney, I think was the name, from St. Lucia. And he asked me to write. We did the project proposal and we sent it out to him, and he said he couldn't. Michael Olivier said that he wasn't receiving any money from government, so keep the desk going, so he could not. And I didn't get no answer from the NOC. So I also dropped that project. But nowadays you hear a lot of sports tourism thing being banged about.
So, Mr. Kellis, if you can play the other one, the one admins, and then we'll get back into the conversation.
They just have to get the priority right. You have to be, national, what you're doing is for the good of the country. That had to be your number one priority. If anything else come there, you have a problem. That had to be number one. So whatever you do, you know, you always have to see the country first. No matter what it is you're doing, whether it's sport, whether this, whatever discipline, you have to see that first. That to be a number one priority. And once that becomes number one priority, you would go there and make sure at least everybody gets something or everybody get a fair share going forward. But if that is not the priority and then the priority is something else, whether you just want to occupy a position or you think it's a good thing for you to travel, or you think that maybe you could make enough money out there by going to different meetings or whatever, anything, or maybe you could use your office to move contracts in certain ways or the other in your favor, in your friend's favor. Once it becomes that, then we have a problem. The energy is not flowing in the right direction. And the thing is, though, is that I think it's not only me alone that knows what is going on. I mean, we have a number of people in the area of sports journalism, for instance, who knows about what was going on, but they refuse to report on it. But most of the time, I used to be getting leaks, and even though I'm not really quote unquote in the mix where all the funding coming from, but our association would take a whole set of leaks and where the funding is, and a lot of people know where the funding is, and they just wouldn't do any investigative journalism and report. So it's not a question of I being a straight shooter and I should say. I mean, a lot of people know what's going on, and they could also say. They don't have to be, fearful to say they could say. So I think that, we're hoping that the journalists and them would turn the cameras around and start really zeroing on sports and start, asking some questions, some hard questions, and really start following up on what is going on in sports, because much more could be done.
Coach, 3 things here: player support, sports tourism, sports administration. How much of a factor do you think this whole issue of sports administration is impacting positively or negatively on that level, or the needed or necessary player support, and the whole issue of us not being beneficiaries of sports tourism in the way that we ought to? And is that issue that you spoke to of people just holding on to positions because of the personal perks and so that come with it? How much is that part of our environment, of our sporting environment and culture?
Largely part of our environment. Like I may say that a number of people know what is going on, but they wouldn't report on the matter. So you could sort of single me out as the only person talking, and you say, you could push him aside. But it is very important for us, especially, the thing has turned around so much in that before you had a whole set of volunteerism taking place, but when you put yourself out on the world stage and you want to compete against the rest of the region and you want to compete against the rest of the world, we have an Olympic champion now. It means that your funding, you have to pay attention to your funding and make sure that your funding is reaching the people down at the grassroots level, school level, coming up. So, and then you cannot, we make up the whole, so you cannot marginalize a section of the, if you marginalize any section of the whole, it's going to affect the whole. So if the money, for instance, is going where it is needed to go, it's reaching down on the ground, so people who need shoes would get shoes, people who need other equipment would get it, people who need a little money for transport would get it, people who need, like Mr. Charles was saying when he played cricket, sometimes the transportation was not there. Now we have buses sometimes in the ministry that would pick up some of the national teams when they finish and drop them back, to the various households or what have you. If we spend the money on those things and make the whole process easier, then you'll find you have a lot of more people coming out there and really working seriously on sport, because sport have a lot of room for people to have, a lot of careers in. You have the officials, you have team managers, you have events planners, you have a lot of areas where people could do sport on the administrative side and do pretty well, along with the people that play in sport. All right. So, but if the funding is not channeled properly, we have serious problems. For instance, when players have injuries, I mean, if you don't set up any funding for the player thing, I mean, Mr. Taylor can continue to give free service. He doesn't give in so much free service for SPAC class players already. And even sometimes I call him for players that is not SPAC class players and call him. I mean, I know sometimes he don't want to tell me, I don't know, maybe he was cussing in the night sometime, but sometimes I calling him from his work to come and attend to people like not basketball players, maybe football players. I thought I'd get injured and they just don't have what it takes. And I would have to ask him to do it. And he got to leave sometime, he work and come and do it for free because there is no money to be paid. So I'm saying if we have those things channeled in the right direction, then so much could be done. I mean, so much could be done. We have to, because like I said, we have situations where a lot of people could make it in sport. But sport is not a thing where we have so much opportunities here in Grenada. So when you get to such a level in sport, that you could go ahead and get employment. You know, look at Taylor, for instance. Taylor is just one of a kind. We have a couple other physiotherapists in sport, but a few and far apart because there is not just a large market in the country where you could have, let's say, 15 or 20 physiotherapists all over the place doing it and pay them properly for the work because it takes a lot of studying and stuff to go with it. So I'm saying that if we utilize the funding properly, we could benefit much more, both here locally and internationally, like how Orson and them is able to make the transition and do well for themselves and deal with remittances and stuff. Because we have some situations, for instance, when it comes to even export, for instance, because, you know, I did the book and I had it on Amazon. If we had some Grenadian company or some Grenadian place that dealing with Grenadian exports that I could send the book to, and they could deal with the shipping out and the finances, collecting the funds, and as what Amazon is doing, then you know how much money Grenada could benefit as a result of that. Grenadian people doing Grenadian business, Grenadian exporting. We well on the way. It happened in the instances of fishing, for instance. You have fish going to one are we paying what, 550 locally? When the fish get out to Miami and those guys selling it to a third party, it might be 12 to 13 US for a pound. So you see who makes the money out of the products that we have. Now, the products in that case go be, I mean, human products because it's players and things that going out there. So we need to get them to deal with that aspect of it. On the question of sports tourism, I'd mentioned it on a number of occasions. We brought in, from a club standpoint, with assistance from the Sports Council in St. John's. We brought in about, over the last 6 or 7 years, we brought in about 9 teams. On an average, 9 teams would spend about $12,000 locally EC. That is for meals, accommodation, and sometimes transportation outside of the transportation that we would provide. So they're spending about $12,000 locally. I'm talking about goes into the economy. So that is something that should be encouraged, whether the sports minister talk to the other sports minister in the other countries in the region, because people just love to come to Grenada for whatever reason. They just love to come to Grenada. All right. I mentioned that we could have used the Spirit. The Spirit normally comes up around Carnival time with about 400, 500 revelers of the TNT. I'm saying is that we could use the Spirit on a weekend. They come in on a Friday evening and we engage in volleyball, basketball, netball, football, whatever. And we have those activities. We have lights in the night so that we could have night matches as well as evening matches. And we could have people come out and support and patronage. So locally, we could get funding for the clubs and whatever to move forward. So that just one area plus these people that are coming in would have to also spend money for whatever, the accommodation, whatever, you know, and we could move forward, not only Trinidad, we could target Barbados, Jamaica, Guyana, all these places. And that. So that was just some of the idea I came about when I talk about sports tourism. But somehow that seems to be a figment of the imagination. The only time we have sports tourism is either we're talking about the invitational or when Alan Lamb and them used to be coming some cricketers out of England. But we've been doing stuff, you know, and people just they're not recognizing it because maybe I guess the money in the basketball is not big enough. And we're doing that outside of having an indoor facility. Could you imagine if at an indoor facility, we got refusal from a number of teams in the States because they asked me to show them the surface. They want to know what are we playing on, and try to polish up library and talk all kind of. But they pick up on the surface. Once they pick up the surface, they realize it's a volleyball surface. They say, nah, we ain't gonna be playing on that. So I lose out on that. I also even had I even had a meeting with a Jackson lady who was in the diaspora office in Grenada at one time to try to get, because I know we have a number of people that teach in some of the schools and thing out in the USA, different parts of America. And I was trying to get into the college system because I get to realize that some of the schools normally vacation prior to the start of the season. So I'm saying if we have an indoor facility and we have the structure in place, then once we set up the link with those colleges and them, they would come to Grenada for the vacation and play against some of the clubs that we have here. We could even invite some clubs to come across and play while those colleges and them are visiting. So all these things and we could have going. And that is only from basketball standpoint I'm talking about. I'm even talking about the other areas, like football, for instance. You have a stadium. Could you imagine if we get maybe Man U to play against Barcelona or something like that? You have people from Jamaica, Guyana, everybody will come now. So that is the kind of thing I'm talking about. That the sports tourism, and we're going to make serious money, but we just you just have to fight up and do what you have to do, and that is why I just try to keep Taylor and Orson and them far from that, so that maybe they never knew until maybe they stop playing that they get to realize that all these problems exist. But you just have to walk through it. I mean, I don't feel it really. It doesn't really bother me as such, and I'm not bothered by it. So
Mr. Thomas, what was it like for you being out there? What kind of did you receive any kind of support from home base, and what was it like for you? I mean, we hear coach speaking about the kind of support, a lack of it, and so. I mean, what was the experience like?
Can I plead the fifth on this one? No, in all honesty of the matter, I was blessed to have parents that was fortunate enough to help me while I went to college. I have yet to receive anything from anyone outside of my parents, to be honest. And it's an issue because the year in 2005 when I was supposed to come over here, we had talked to I think it was the Ministry of Sports just to pay for our tickets to come over here, and we had a lot of back and forth there. And my dad would just say, you know what, forget it, I'm going to foot everything and you get to go. So it was sad, but at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you. When me and Ian came out here, we find jobs. So while we play basketball, going to school, we had jobs that we would, do after practice. I was a resident assistant, so I kind of oversee the dorms for the student. Ian did the same thing. So we had a little bit of extra money coming in from that, and we were able to kind of, maintain and sustain through working while playing basketball and going to school. It's challenging because sometimes we go straight from class, we practice for 2.5, 3 hours. We rush to the cafeteria before it closed to get something to eat, and then we have to go back to work just so we have money to buy, additional supplies and stuff that we may need for school. In addition, when I was in grad school, didn't receive anything, from them, but I was able to network and get on-campus jobs. I was a graduate teaching assistant, so taught financial accounting while doing my MBA. So that kind of helped pay some of the bills that I had. My parents, like I said, was great support. And that's how I was able to make it, and it's sad, but at the end of the day, we all got to do what we have to do and help the next person up. And that's what we try to take everyone in that come over here on basketball scholarship and try to help them the best we can.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes, sir.
From your vantage point here at home in Grenada, what additional things do you think can be done in terms of administration to make it better for athletes in terms of having access to the kind of services that you provide, which is really critical for many people who's involved in sports, whether it's basketball, athletics, or whatever?
For years, Naka and I have had this conversation many times. For years, I've been talking about, our focus on funding in sports in Grenada is kind of backward in terms of it's like on the upside down in some instances because sports is about personnel, not about infrastructure. The infrastructure will come later on, but it's about personnel. I mean, let's look at the infrastructure we have where sports is concerned. With track and field, we always use the excuse that Jamaica had stadium, we didn't. That's why they were better than us. We now have stadium, they're still better than us because you don't have the right personnel in place, and we're not investing in having the personnel in place. Look at the Jamaican Olympic Association headquarters. Look at ours. Um, does it make us any better? It doesn't. So it's just that we directing the funding in the wrong places. I mean, I don't even want to know how much the Olympic House cost us, but all I'm seeing is missed opportunities. How many kids would have gotten scholarship from that money? How many kids could have been assisted in terms of developing their skills in athletics or any Olympic sport? Because the Olympic Association supposed to be managing every Olympic sport on the island, but it seems like it's one or two sports benefiting and the rest of it just going into, I mean, things that really doesn't impact sports in my opinion. And one thing that Naka and I spoke about recently was return on investment. Look at how much money has been spent in other popular sports like football, track and field. How many professional athletes do they have? How many professional basketballers do we have? Um, at present, there's no homegrown professional football player. We have one guy, in my opinion, who's exceptional in terms of his natural ability and talent, but he's playing some kind of semi-pro league in Honduras or something. I mean, so look at how many basketball players playing in professional leagues around the world. So it's a lot of money being spent in the wrong places, on the wrong things. Recently I engaged the Grenada Football Association. I know I'm going to probably get some licks for saying this right now. Engage the Football Association in terms of us, myself. There's another young guy from Washington, Houston, who went abroad and did a degree in athletic training. So we noticed one of the trends with football is that they lose a lot of the games in the second half and the latter part of the second half. So it's definite that strength and condition is an issue. So we went to them and we said, listen, we can take care of the strength and conditioning for you. Um, Obviously, it cannot be done on a volunteer basis, but we're willing to negotiate costing and so on. Within a couple of minutes of the conversation, they wanted a quotation. I refused to give them a quotation. I said, we're not here to talk about a quotation. We're talking about how can we help football. We know how we can help football. All we need is for you to allow us to help football. And they push for us. So I say, okay, when we leave, I'll email you, the quotation. One day went by, I got an email. Oh, where is the quotation? Where is the quotation? Send them the quotation maybe about 6 weeks ago. We haven't heard anything since. So it just goes to show. You go to the GFA office. There's so many people working there, maybe more than 10. Look at how much money is being spent in football, and where is the return on investment? There's minimal return on investment. Most of the soccer, football scholarships leaving Grenada has nothing to do with GFA. Has nothing to do with the association and the governing body. It has nothing to do with the Olympic Association. Football is an Olympic sport. So it's about not investing in personnel, not investing in the athletes, investing in other things, administrators. So as long as the focus doesn't change and the focus is not put on the individuals and trying to get the best and most opportunities possible for our children, it's just going to be same old moving forward. So Naka, I'm going to take some licks like you now.
Dr. Smith, as someone who's functioning at the level that you are, as someone at a division in Wheeling Hospital, where I expect the administrative component of things would have to be optimum as regards delivery of service and everything else. What kind of advice could you offer for administrators here, especially in the field of sports and ensuring that we have the right things in place, the right systems in place in order to deliver the services that's needed?
But I would say the biggest thing would be to listen to the experts. I think what happens a lot of the times is that the administrators think that they're the experts. The administrators administrate, and yes, they would control the purse strings and they would control the budgets, etc. But I, as a practitioner, if there is something that I want to do, I am the one who has the training and the know-how as to how to get it done. So if I ask for a particular type of equipment or a particular personnel to help me to get something done, administration has to be responsive to that and give me exactly what I need. Because if I don't get exactly what I need to do the job that I need to do, that patient is dead. So they understand that. And every hospital that thrives, and any cardiovascular division that thrives, know the administrators know that their their leaders and the clinical leaders understand what they're doing, and their job is to support. So that should be the same for sports administration. The administrators have to administrate, and they have to be responsive to these sort of comments that Taylor and Naka and everyone else who are in the forefront. They're in the forefront of the battle. They know, they see on the ground what is happening. And although the administrators might think they know, many times they don't. So sometimes they just have to take a step back and have just a listening ear and be able to provide. Their job is to figure out how to give the people on the front line what they need to succeed. So if our administrators in basketball and GFA and the Olympic Committee, etc., if they're able to do that and listen to the voices on the ground and not interject as if they're the authoritative source on everything, then I think things will be better.
Well, we are presently in a domain where we have a gentleman sitting here with us, and I think he can lend something significant to the conversation relating to the whole issue of administration. Mr. Dennis Charles, what can you lend to that whole conversation of administration as it relates to our Grenada situation?
Okay, once again, my friend, Mr. Pablo, I am honored to be in such company, good company.
Yeah, man, they
Some
coach
of
and the sellers and them. Yeah.
yes, I know they make me feel proud, to be honest with you. All right. To have gone to Cuba, to have learned a language and have to compete, maybe do exams and all of that in a different language that is not really natural to you, and still come out at the top, come to this country here and make it that far, it speaks to the discipline you got from your coach, the focus you had, and what you call vision for the long term, right? The other gentleman also, well, I guess all of you had some experience in sports, basketball, but you have made it against all odds without getting the necessary financial support or backing from government. You struggled, you worked extra on the side, I guess as much part-time, and pursued your academics and all of that, and still made it. I'm very proud. Garvin, Taylor, Triston, Smith, all of you guys, I should give you guys a bow. You guys make me feel proud as a Grenadian. But after listening to the good old coach articulate some of the concerns and the difficulties, it seems that the government officials down there they have no regard for sports. One, or they don't understand the importance of sport in shaping culture. And first of all, we have to address the situation with the youth. The lack of vision, the lack of perspective. You could use sport, whether it's cricket, basketball, or whatever, you know? And I see my computer gone. Hold on, let me see if I'm still there. Uh-oh. Yeah, am I there still?
Yes, you are with us.
You could see me?
Frozen.
I think my battery is...
Yes.
He's frozen.
You're frozen.
All right, let me see again. Just give me 1 second. My battery is getting low. Oh my God. I think I would have to apologize. It's dying on me. I had a show before that, and I don't have much power left. But I promised that I would come back with some solutions. I probably would post it on your chat when you put up this video. My phone is about to die.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No. Hello. No. Listen, I'm trying to tie up something. Anyway. Now, that being said, I want my if my technical operator could take a short break here right now with that what's his name? That Randy Isaac tune. Yeah, we can do better, and we'll come back afterwards to get some closing remarks from everybody.
Nobody telling me that the country poor, no, and use that as an excuse to be mediocre. Not at all. Or tell me things are bad, so it is global recession. While our sweet fruit are falling and rotting on the ground, and our leaders running wrong, heart in hand, to countries with their own ass to grind. Nothing can so set back a country more than when a country fails to plan. We never put our best foot forward because of our selfishness. We don't seem to want to walk toward not what I want, but what is best. What is best? We have resource, skills, and talent. Is this selflessness that we lack? I believe we can do better than that. Listen to me. For the sake of the country.
Yeah, we seem to be having some problems with
we still have
play.
Job creation, hit bus, poverty elimination should be the priority of every true Grenadian. A common goal, a plan, a set course. Something every Grenadian wants to be a part of. All things being equal, we owe our country never put the best foot forward. Because of our selfishness, we don't seem to want to walk toward not what I want, but what is best. What is best? We have resource, skills, and talent. Is the selflessness that we lack? I believe we can do better than that.
Yes, Mr. Kelly, we could do better than that. Yes. Definitely, we could do better than that. And the message that's been coming from each and everyone here indicates that as a country, we have the potential. Maybe we are challenged in some respects, financially, but given the fact that the evidence has been presented here, and especially by Mr. Taylor, that we are expending resources on things that are not bearing fruits. They're not bringing the returns that we're capable of accomplishing. And this song really speaks to that. We can do better than that. So as we're down to our last 15 minutes, Mr. Kalis has, the manager has allowed us to go beyond, because he's the kind of person, once the conversation is worth the while, he would allow us to go the distance. So in the next 15 minutes, closing remarks, what do you think can be done? What are some of the steps from your vantage point that need to be taken if our sports, the opportunities and so on are to be much more available and more viable for our students, for our trainees, for our coaches and so on, because we need to build every element of our personnel. As Mr. Taylor said, it's about people, it's about building people, right? So what do you think is needed going forward in order for us to get to that place, to the comfort zone, as we get out of our comfort zone, to get to the comfort zone where we can feel comfortable that we're doing the right thing? Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, definitely the first one that sticks out is that we have to invest in the youths. Um, like Naka, me and Naka would always talk, and one of the things he's always said, it's been, what, I don't know, over 20 years, coach, that there hadn't been like primary school basketball.
22 years,
22 years. I definitely think that we can do a better job. And I'm not just talking about basketball, because when I went to primary school, apart from track, and I know this is a very long time ago, there were no really investment in any other sport. We would just kick around a soccer ball, and maybe it's changed now. But I'm gonna just speak from basketball, because that's what got me to where I'm at today. But there has been no investment in the youths from that perspective. Every year, I have coaches calling me, asking me, "Hey, what do you guys have on the island?" Right? In terms of basketball talent. And I've always reached out to Coach Naka and asked him, "Hey, what do we have?" And he would give me a list, but a lot of it is, one, the guys are not ready, not from a talent perspective, but from an academic standpoint. So they hadn't taken the SATs, they hadn't have like the transcripts and stuff in order. So we have to almost focus on that. If we start preparing them from an academic standpoint before the name even come up in the conversation, I think that would really help. Because when I got my basketball scholarship, I already took the SATs, and was just waiting for somebody to say, "Hey, here is your opportunity." So once that happened, within a few weeks, I was gone. And I think that's important, because we really have to look at it from an academic standpoint. from a talent standpoint and invest in the kids, because as much as we would like to say somebody from Grenada is going to make it to the NBA, if you get a scholarship when you're 20, 22 years and you go to a Division II school, the chances are very slim. So we have to get somebody out there very young and put them through the system, and then we have a really good chance of having that person make it to the NBA or even one of the better professional leagues. But I want to kind of congratulate a lot of the guys that really came over here from a basketball standpoint to look at it and say, you know what, basketball got me here, but education is going to get me somewhere else. So my word of encouragement, even to the youths today, is to continue to push from an educational standpoint. And if you have a calling in terms of basketball, then you could always reach out to Coach Naka and get involved in the school at a very young age so he can start preparing you from a much younger age. But we really need help because a lot of these kids don't have the financial support to do it. So we really need the ministry and people that have or was fortunate to have some sort of resource to help those kids, whether in terms of shoes, whether in terms of basketball, and getting them the training they need. And that's my biggest encouragement. Let's look at it not only from a sports standpoint, but from an educational standpoint. Sports could only get you here, but education will get you to be where you need to be in the future, is because our career from a sports standpoint is way shorter from versus an educational standpoint.
Well said, Mr. Thomas. It's been a pleasure having you here. I really feel your energy.
Oh, thanks. And thanks for having me.
Yes. Mr. Taylor, same
Yes, sir.
question to you. What do you think we need to do to get to that place that
First,
you mentioned a while ago?
firstly, I think we need to set some goals, decide what we want sports to achieve for the country. You know, I mean, we can, in my opinion, the main goal should be developing our children as best we can, because you bring children up in sports within that discipline environment. In most instances, once the environment is disciplined and everyone, let's look at the sparklers example. So it's basically you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just replicate the sparklers example. That's basically it. Sparklers has been successful consecutively, consistently over the years, regardless of who's playing. So you're having a plug and play system, and it's about the system, not about the individual. So you come in and everybody goes through, regardless of who you are, regardless of your standing in society. You come on the court for practice for Sparklers, you're a Sparklers player, and you're going to go through the same rigors as everyone else. So it's about creating an environment and a system and developing your to achieve the goals that is set. So for sports program in Grenada, every sport, you must first set goals. And it starts with the grassroots. You can't leave the grassroots out. Let's look at the example. I'm using football examples a lot. I'm probably gonna suffer for that, but that's the glaring examples. So you have football being played here, and you have a national team that you're going to be sending to, CONCACAF Digital Cup. That's predominantly foreign players. Some of these players' grandparents were Grenadian, and in most cases, the players are not developed here. So you call in a team to train for a tournament, upcoming tournament. You call 25 guys down. They're running up and down in the hot sun. And then a week or two before the tournament, you bring in 12 guys from outside. And the 11 out of those 12 guys are going to start. So you must invest in developing your sport, developing your players. So how am I going to be encouraged as a footballer knowing that they're going to bring in 11 or 12 guys? So, what's the point in me trying to push and trying to develop myself? So you have to start with the grassroots. We have to have, achievable goals and really start building from scratch. We have the opportunity to do it. The point is that Orson is making on education. Sports gives you a perfect opportunity to get a free education, to take you as far as you're willing to go. So we can use sports as a vehicle for many things, for creating revenue for us, for getting opportunities for, the average Grenadian is poor folks. We all poor people, and being able to afford tertiary education in some instances, without sports we can't. So, just a lot of what we call missed opportunities for children that we could have taken advantage of if we really had the right things in place and the right approach and the right goals. Um, just look at how the St. John Sports Council function. Look at how sparklers function. Instead of being critical of how sparklers function, get on board. You come and you speak to Naka. He's always willing to share. It's not that difficult. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You already have systems in place. You already have funding, sources of funding. So it's about directing the funds in the right direction, making sure that the children benefit from the funding and you develop the kids from early within the whatever sporting discipline that they choose or where the talent seem to lie, and also help develop our coaches. At this point, most of our coaches or even our administrators in sports are past athletes. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. In most instances, these same athletes did not achieve their potential. So, you had people who did not achieve their potential, have them in an administrative role, trying to help a child get to a point that they couldn't get themselves. So it's a little bit of the blind leading the blind in some instances. And then when you do have administrators who are supposed to, quote unquote, know better, you're not getting the right, it doesn't seem like the intentions are correct. So it's a lot about, we know the funding is limited. We've been using that excuse for years, but, just look at basketball. Basketball doesn't have, money. It's a minimal source of funds as compared to some of the other sports. But look at what is happening. How many basketball players leave the country on scholarships. So it doesn't take as much money as we think. It's just that when you do have a lot of money, some instances create more confusion and greed and selfishness more than anything else. I've been back in Grenada.
Just get wasted.
I've been back in Grenada 12 years, always been, willing to volunteer but the environment has to be correct. I've been approached by a football team to help and assist. When I observe the environment, no discipline involved, I just, politely say, listen, I cannot work in that environment. It must be a discipline. Sports supposed to instill certain attributes and certain characters, should build with character building. You should be a better individual for being involved in a sporting club or in sports. But if it's going to encourage you to head in the wrong direction or allow you to continue with bad habits, it's not accomplishing the desired goals. So I think it's really starts with goal setting. There has to be goal setting. What do we want sports to accomplish? How it is going to help us, and figure out a plan and get the right people to help build from there.
Great, wonderful. You made a point there, and it brought something back to mind. I remember seeing a photograph of the national football team. And I know that Hurricane has been one of the top clubs and things. So I looking to see who I could recognize there and so on. I couldn't make out anybody there. So then I went to one of those guys around and I showed them. I said, well, what happened? How many guys, local guys are on it? And they told me, no, there's no local guys on the team. All you're seeing there are guys who's playing overseas and whatever and whatever. And I mean, I was amazed because I know I grew up with, the local guys going and represent Grenada when it comes to playing football. I know Dia Marquez and I know, the Ashley Ram folks and heads and so on, representing, going and win Pop-Em Cup and so on and come back home with it.
And I must clarify.
So I was really blown away with that.
I want to clarify to some extent in that, because if you do develop the sports, the players are going to leave, they're going to play professionally. So the players that coming back to play should be locally developed players who went out there because they developed their skills to the point where they can make a living playing football, and they're not going to come back to represent their country. But the ones who are coming in sometimes have never been to Grenada before. They weren't born here, they don't live here, they not developed here. So we just find a connection to have them represent Grenada. And obviously for the career, having national caps, will help you. So they will come to play. But, what are we doing to develop? We should be exporting players and not importing. That's my opinion.
And that's the other thing. We had so many quality players back then, and those opportunities were not available at that point in time.
Exactly.
And now the opportunities are there, and we don't have these quality players. Anyway, Dr. Smith, we know that you've been doing a lot behind the scenes. I mean, they don't talk about it. We don't see it in the newspapers and so, but we know that you've been contributing at a great level back here, and we don't really want to get into that. But in closing, what advice would you give, given all that's been said and the challenges that are out there in terms of personnel, in terms of not making the correct decisions and so? What's your closing remarks for us?
Well, I would have to endorse everything that's been said so far and encourage everyone to basically understand the value. We have to understand the value of sports. And I think, when we think of sports, we just think of people going to the park to kick a ball or shoot into hoops or swim or something. But there's a lot of, social and economic value that comes along with sports. And I think if we're able to understand that, if our administrators and our politicians are able to understand that, then we can have the political and corporate will that it takes to move this movement forward and to move sports forward in Grenada. And then once we have that political will, then we'll be able to set goals. And then we'll be able to pursue the type of infrastructure that we need and the personnel that we need, because then there'll be that momentum to invest in our people. Because when we invest in our people and we invest in sports, we invest in health, in the health of our people, not just, okay, for someone to get to the NBA or for someone to play soccer for Barcelona, but the overall health of the population gets better. And it keeps the youth in check. It gives an avenue for, sometimes for aggression to come out. It gives an avenue for, someone to get a mental break. And these are things that are sometimes not quantifiable, but are very, very important for a society, and a society as fragile and small as ours in Grenada. I mean, sparklers for me and sports in Guelph as on a whole, for someone like me growing up who was very poor, that was my economic livelihood too, because I would go to the basketball game to be on the bench to keep the score or whatever. But I mean, and I have no shame saying it because everyone in Guelph know me. Mm-hmm. I had my little basket with nuts to sell and popcorn to sell, because that's what's going to fund my school the next day. That's what's going to fund my meal. So I'm at a point now where I can give something back to sports, and I can give something back to sparklers. And that's why I do it, because I see the value. I saw the value of that to me as a poor person, just trying to sell a few things to get my meal for the next day, and also to kept me out of being a truant or falling into the other devious things that are out there. And these are important things for youth. And I think if we understand that, if we grasp that, and we know that, hey, there are a lot of young people out there who are looking for alternatives, and we need to provide those alternatives to them in a very safe way, and a way that they can see that they can develop life skills. Sports gives that. Sports allow you to develop life skills, and our civic leaders or politicians or corporate leaders need to understand that, so that they can invest in our personnel, invest in our infrastructure, and that's the way we'll be able to move this forward to help the future generations. Hello? Did I get cut off?
Yeah.
Like you put Pablo to sleep there.
No, you're
Oh. I thought I got cut off.
Yeah. Come in, Raphael. Come in.
Hello?
Yes,
Not here.
Pablo. Yep.
We having a glitch.
Coach, you had a host the
Yeah,
last couple of minutes.
Now Pablo will
right.
come back in.
So
Yeah,
coach, final words from you as we close,
yeah.
right?
Well, yeah. I just want to take this opportunity to thank yourself for hosting and John Kelly's for
Everybody's freezing up
providing.
at the closing right now.
You hearing me? Oh, your bandwidth is low. It says.
Yes, I'm
No,
hearing you.
yeah, I'm saying that, I
Okay.
want to thank you for hosting the program and John Kelly's for giving us the platform to come and share some ideas on sports and what we've been trying to do with the Sparklers outfit over the years and sports in St. John's. So much contribution from members of the sports council and other people in the parish. And also would like people to know that the people that are there right now speaking on the program, they came through the Sparklers outfit, but Sparklers didn't only cater for only people that play for Sparklers. Like Orson could have told you, we had a number of other people from other teams and from other parishes that came in. We had scholarships. Guys came and trained from Granans, guys from St. Patrick's. You have guys from Grenville. You have wherever the opportunity is, because Sparklers would, like I say, bring the coaches in, and we would have a showcase of the players from all around the country. So sometimes people are blindsided by the fact and they think, well, you have to come and play for Sparklers in order for you to benefit from Sparklers. And I'm telling them, it's not so, because Doc would send funding down for us to have tournaments nationally. Orson would get sneakers, whether it's second-hand sneakers, the uniforms he go take care of. He send them funding for the junior program. Well, Taylor, all services for all the players, even players that are not on Sparklers, they would benefit as well, because we have tremendous contribution from those players, and I really want them to applaud, because not everybody sometimes are blessed with the situation sometimes that they are in. I mean, they are family, they have family. Most, I think all of them are married, barring none. So they have family to take care of, and yet still they go out of the way to ensure that the youth, not only of the parish, but youth throughout Grenada, benefit from what they have achieved after being players and going out there and study. So I really want to thank them also for the continued support for the program, and hope that people listening could sort of come out and support in whatever way possible, just to ensure that going forward that the youths, not only on the parish of St. John's, but all the parishes and Grenada, Carrickopity, Martinique, and wherever, could benefit in whatever way is possible, or whatever they could do to make sure that we move forward together, because that is important for us. I want to thank you again.
Thank you very much, Coach. You've made my day. You've made the comfort zone, feel very worthwhile.
Thank you,
And
sir.
you are welcome to be back. Dr. Smith, I really love to have you back some other time. In a different capacity.
You're
When,
taking
when,
him
when,
away from Sparklers now? You're moving him from Sparklers, what
No, I'm not
capacity?
moving him from
Oh, okay.
Sparklers.
That's,
I,
okay, all right.
You
I'll be available whenever you're
you
ready.
you,
Just let me
you,
know.
you can't take the sparklers out of him.
Okay,
You
all
know,
right. Thank
he
you.
carries
Okay.
the sparkle wherever he goes.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, definitely so. So
Okay.
thank you to all of my guests,
Thank
and
you.
thank you
Thank you.
once again to Brother John for providing me with the opportunity to be able to do a show as I am doing here with the Comfort Zone.
Thank you,
And
sir.
thank to all of the
And
listeners, all of the viewers, those who have put comments in the shout box. And so thank you. Share it around. And as you know, it's going to be available online afterwards. I've established a YouTube channel, and I put it up there so people can access whatever show that is done here on the Comfort Zone afterwards. So thanks to
Thank
everybody.
you.
All the
All
all
best.
right.
right,
Have a
thank you.
Thank
good
you.
weekend.
Okay. All
Thanks,
right.
Brother
Pablo.
John,
Yeah.
Brother John Caliste. Hello, are you hearing me? Yes, Brother John. Uh, thank you. All the best. All right. Yes, man. Right? Yes, man. Mm-hmm. It's not. Mhm. Wonderful. All right, Brother John. All the best. Thank you much. Okay. Yes, it's not an easy road.
I'll make to the corner when I make it. And that's where they're meant to take it. Sure. I'll be there for sure. Don't worry. I'll miss them. Bam, 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 bam. It's not an easy road. How many see the glamour and the glitter, so them think I better rose. Me say, who feels it knows. Woo, Lord, help me sustain these blows. I cry. It's not an easy road. How many see the glamour and the glitter, so them think I better rose. Me say, who feels it knows. Woo, Lord, help me sustain. Why? From the minute of birth you enter this earth, obstacle they in your way to overcome first. Throughout every day they seem to get worse. Oh my God, cast away this curse. Everybody are trying to make every end meet you anywhere that them endeavor. Lord God, you see it. No matter what the world may say out the street, most of this I won't accept defeat. Now I'm weary, tired and dreary. We got no time to race your better know that it's not an easy road. How many see the glamour and the glitter, so them think I better rose. Me say, who feels it knows. Ooh, Lord, help me sustain these blows. I cry, it's not an easy road. How many see the glamour and the glitter, so them think I better rose. Me say, who feels it knows. Ooh, Lord, help me sustain these blows. Why your eyes to see the sun? Who you love or who you don't? Trying to discredit the works you have done. Some not satisfied with the pose of a lie. From the scribes and Pharisees, you got to stay wide. Hold up the head, dancing on both sides. How we anticipate, pray for your side. Righteousness prevail. It's down by my side. Leave my shoulder from the well. No leave him to die. Help us all. Ababa Janai. Hold up my head and cry. I tell you now, it's not an easy road. Oh no, it's not an easy road. I did tell you, it's not an easy road. Oh no, it's not an easy road. Why? I've been traveling morning with such an heavy load. Now it's noon and
Get out of your comfort zone. The fear that you're not confronting cannot take your life away. The game of life out there waiting for you to come out and play. I tell you, get out of your comfort zone. I know it takes plenty courage to start all over again, but patience and real perseverance could bring you positive gain. I tell you, get out of your comfort zone. Get out of your comfort zone. I know that you have greatness in you. So, get out of your comfort